Ooh, I love that.
Oh, I saw that, dude. Nice.
That's a flick. After all the initial server errors and inevitable maintenance, we finally got to get our hands on the World War III closed beta test. And while we had a lot of fun and got a lot of frags, that's not what today's video is about. Today's video is about tactical ops. You just jumped in and have no idea what to do? Fear not, because I will teach you everything. Your no BS guide to World War III tactical ops begins now. Every map has 6 capture points, A1, A2, B1, B2, and C1, C2. You need both objective points captured for your team in order to start earning points from that area. So if C1 was captured by your team but C2 was owned by the enemy, your team would not start gaining points. And so in this hypothetical situation, your team in blue would be gaining points at a faster rate than the enemy team in red, because you own 2 capture areas while they own just 1. Unlike in Battlefield, when one team is capping a point, the other team cannot spawn on that point, whether or not they own it. The team has to either get off the point and stop capping it for them to spawn on it again, or they all die on the point, allowing you to spawn on it again. This is one thing that makes tactical ops different from Conquest and Battlefield, in that instead of spawning on the point itself to try and defend it, you would need to spawn on the adjacent capture point and travel to that point if you wanted to defend it, if you cannot instead spawn on your squad mates. With that overview in mind, what is the best strategy for capping points? In my opinion, defense is the best way to go. This is a strategy that another player, the Den 2K19, has come up with that I am now simplifying for you, the viewer. In short, defense is what you want to do, but before you can be told how to defend, you've got to know how to attack. Attacking is something I used to do a lot, especially in the older build of World War III. And I can guarantee you that most of your team will consist of attackers. The vast majority of your team is going to want to attack, attack, attack. So, what is going through their heads and how are they attacking if they are doing it properly? If someone is attacking properly, and this is the situation, your team owns both A points and both C points. The attacker brain, let's say they had just captured A2, the attacker would immediately want to go to either B1 or B2, depending on which one is less defended. That's a key point. Because the attacker who is doing things right will be following the first of 2 rules that I'm going to share with you from Sun Tzu's The Art of War. And that is, avoid what is strong, attack what is weak. If there happens to be a lot of enemy players on B2 at the time that A2 was just captured, and almost no defenders on B1, the player who is on A2 is going to immediately want to attack B1 because it has few, if not 0 defenders compared to the other point that they could attack. They're not going to go for this, they're going to go for this. Attacking the most weakly defended point will ensure that your team is more likely to cap the point in the future. While capping it, they can defend it from enemies who may try to run and defend the base in its stead. But we won't go into too much detail because the gist is not too difficult to understand. Avoid what is strong, attack what is weak. Simple and straightforward. If an attacker on your team or the enemy team is doing things right, they're going to target the bases that are least defended, like so. And that's the gist of attackers. But now, what do defenders do? And this is something I learned how to do recently, because before I was this attacking player. I would always try to attack the weakest points that I could find on the map. And that's how I would stay active and potentially get my PvP. But what I've found, and especially in the new build of World War III, where I'm not as skilled as many of the other players who are coming in, I can't be as aggressive as I used to be. And so I've had to adapt my playstyle to a more defensive playstyle to really counter the playstyle that I just showed to you. And so how is this playstyle countered? Based on what I've learned from the Den 2K19, again, the link to his channel will be in the description, by the way. He's a brilliant player. What I found is the gist of Den 2K19's playstyle is following the second rule, which I'm going to share with you from Sun Tzu's Art of War, which is all warfare is deception. Appear strong when you are weak, and appear weak when you are strong. Now that's kind of being loosely followed with what I'm about to show you, but in a sense, it will make sense in just a little bit. The key is the deception part. Already understanding that an attacker will want to attack the most lightly defended base that they can see, what this allows us to do is predict the enemy movement. So let's say C1 was not as defended, and the people who just capped B1 are now running to C1. because they see there's very little people on it, they can run and camp it quickly, or at least they think. The proper defender will recognize two things. First and foremost, our team owns 2 out of 3 capture zones. In theory, if the game stayed exactly like this for the rest of the allotted time, our team would win. And thus, in theory, if all we do is defend points successfully, we will win the game. And thus, secondly, with the first thing in mind, you can now realize that, okay, let's say in this hypothetical situation, C1 had nobody defending it, and B1 had the majority of the enemy team. You will now predict that the enemy team players who are on B1 are going to rush to C1. And so what are you going to do as a defender? You and your squad are going to come and defend C1 from the impending onslaught. And you might then do things like drop a radar over C1 or drop it somewhere a little bit between B1 and C1 if you think you know exactly where the enemies might be by this point. If you think they're only just leaving B1, you might put the radar up right here to stunt the flow of those players to the objective where they want to go. And then you and your squad can set up defensive positions between C1 and B1 accordingly, depending on where you think the enemies are and where they're heading. And at that point, it depends on the map layout, the map topography, and what you and your squad best deem are the most defensible positions. Here's an example of me in this exact situation, using radar to defend C1 instead of moving to attack either B1 or B2. Of course, by this point, the enemies had been allowed to get onto C1, but I still think it gets the point across.
Objective Charlie 1 is under attack. Enemy airstrike fast approaching. Our UAV is online.
Somehow they got there.
Brilliant.
Oh, he's outside.
I cleared it. I cleared the whole point. Let's go.
In a way, this actually will net you the most PvP than if you were just straight attacking all the weakest points that you could find. And it would be more enjoyable PvP, because instead of you running into someone's crosshair as the attacker, you are the person who is now waiting for somebody to run onto your screen so you can shoot them. Instead of reacting to what's happening on the map, you are now the one predicting and preventing things from happening.
I was a preventer, actually.
What did you prevent?
Bad things from happening.
And thus, instead of being an attacker who keeps running to an empty base, you will now be the defender protecting a base from 2 or 3 different squads, thus guaranteeing yourself more PvP, more frags, and an overall much better and higher scoring performance than the majority of the other players on the team. And I hope this video was helpful for you. If it was, please leave a like and a comment. If it wasn't, please give a thumbs down and let me know what information I may have been missing or what else could help you. But apart from that, I hope you enjoyed this no BS guide to tactical ops in World War III. I hope you all have much better games. My name is Zarir, and I'll see you all next time in the server.